Well, thank you very much for staying tuned. Now, many Nigerians are expressing frustration over the continued high cost of petrol, despite a sharp decline in global crude oil prices. Crude oil prices fell to around $73 per barrel on Wednesday, their lowest level since tensions between the United States and Iran escalated earlier this year. The decline followed the peace agreement reached between both countries, easing fears of disruptions to global oil supply. Despite the drop in crude prices, petrol continues to sell for between 1,200 naira and 1,300 naira per litre across several parts of Nigeria, sparking complaints from consumers and business owners who expected pump prices to fall significantly. Data from the International Oil Market Trackers shows that crude oil dropped from $76 per barrel on Tuesday to $73.50 on Wednesday. The decline extends the downward trend that began after the U.S.-Iran peace deal was announced on June 14th. The development has led many Nigerians to question why fuel prices have remained elevated months after crude oil prices returned close to levels seen before the Middle East crisis. Well, during the conflict, crude oil prices climbed above $84 per barrel amid fears that the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global shipping route, could be disrupted. In response, fuel prices surged across Nigeria, with petrol rising from about 830 naira per litre to over 1,300 naira per litre in some locations. Well, let's talk to Mr. Gbolan Olojede. He's a finance expert to make us understand what all of this stands for. Thank you so much, Mr. Olojede. It's good to have you, and thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, then. I would just like my intro, but before we go to the price of fuel itself, the last time we spoke, the war was still so intense, and we're talking about the impacts and all of that. What do you make of the level we've gotten to now? There's a ceasefire, a time to settle all of this, and everyone feels like it seems we're getting to the point where there'll be light at the end of the tunnel. Tell us how that comes to you first.
Well, I think the world has done very well. The actors have been able to reach certain level of negotiations. Of course, nothing is final yet. As we have seen today, a vessel had been hit at the Strait of Hormuz, even today, by Iranian drones. So it is not exactly 100% uhuru, but there has been a very serious progress in the direction of peace in the Strait of Hormuz. And traffic has improved. Traffic has not returned to the normal level, and it might take a bit of time for that to happen, but certainly traffic has improved in the strait. And we have also seen how the progress in the peace negotiations, the improvement in movement, in traffic in that strait, has also impacted oil prices in the world. It has continued to drop. To moderate, to be a better word. So it's good for everybody, anyhow you look at it. And the price of refined products are beginning to drop across the world as well. So the world has made a good progress, actually.
You said the world has made a good progress, but we still buy, like in Nigeria, the complaint is, how come we're still buying at 1,210 naira? It seems like it's always quick for us to increase prices, but very difficult to bring back the prices down. Why do we have that challenge in this part of the world?
I saw a number of comments in that direction over the last few days. And one thing I did was to actually also look for the fall in price of refined petrol, particularly in other climes. So I looked at the Eurozone, I looked at the UK, I looked at the US. And in the Eurozone, price has only reduced by about 7.6%. So it is reducing, but it doesn't appear as if the rate at which price of refined product is coming down is commensurate with the drop in the crude price. It's also not aligned with the speed with which it was climbing when it was climbing. The same thing when you go to the UK. UK is even worse. It has dropped by only about 3%, as opposed to the Eurozone, which was about 7.6%. America has seen a more significant drop, about almost 14% drop in price since that negotiation. While in Nigeria, it's about 9% drop. If we take 120, I think there were about 125 naira reduction thereabout. That would take us to about 9 or 10% drop in the price since that time. So when you look at the 4 places that I've said, EU, UK, US, and Nigeria, only US is outstanding with about 14% drop. Nigeria's drop in price is actually a little better than Eurozone and much better than the drop in price we have seen in the UK. So what that means is that it is not exactly just the drop in price that immediately start to translate to drop in price of the final product. The fact that oil price has dropped more dramatically does not automatically translate to refined product also dropping at the same rate. There is a lag in between the rate of drop. And it could be a function of several other factors that plug into that middle, but are not as obvious as the price of crude in itself. So price of crude alone is not the determinant, it's not the 100% determinant of what will be the price of the refined product. So there might be a lag, there will be a lag, and it will take a bit of time for the prices to adjust the way we would have loved to see them.
Interesting stuff. But crude oil prices is still way higher than our budget projection and all of that. What would you say about this price dwindling impact on revenue for government? What are the positives and negatives for Nigeria now in focus?
Well, the positive is glaring on the price, on the pump price of refined product. I believe it will continue to drop over and over the period. Maybe we might even get back to where we were coming from. I mean, you mentioned the figure around 830 as the pre-war price, maybe in Lagos. I also remember vividly that in December, I actually bought fuel for 765 naira in Ibadan at an MRS station in Ibadan. So as the crude price, which is the main cost component of the refined product, continues to drop, or as it has dropped now, over time we expect that price at the pump will also continue to drop. This will automatically translate to a moderated cost of transportation for the people, and that has also implication for cost of energy, because a lot of energy consumption is still being powered by refined petroleum products. The diesel engines, the petrol engines are still part of our energy, huge part of our energy component. So that will also begin to change. I also learned that even the price of gas has started to change. It might also, this is also part of this. So the consumers will begin to feel the impact of this change in the situation at the Strait of Hormuz. At the same time, the kind of prices we have seen in the last 3 or almost 4 months, I mean, February, that's March, April, May, June is finished. That's almost 4 months of elevated prices. And now that price has come down, the money that was to be made by government and corporates that are in that space, we also now start to moderate. So as a producer, if you were able to sell at $100 or over $100 a barrel before, now you have to cope with $80 and $70 depending on the variant of oil that you're selling. So obviously the corporates who are in that space will earn more per barrel. The government, which is our government, which is also a producer, also as a production, we also earn less from his own production contract. At the same time, the taxes that we envisage we come from the corporates might also reduce if their income has correspondingly reduced by virtue of the reduction in price per barrel of oil. So it's a mixed bag. At the consumption side of things, we expect prices to moderate. From government revenue side of things, revenue will also moderate as it were. It should help the inflation figures that we have seen. The last 3 months have seen elevated composite inflation figures, but as energy costs, as transportation costs begin to moderate, it should also have an impact on inflation, which should be a positive impact on inflation. Though I think that being in the farming season might still be a strong factor on the food inflation part of things.
Interesting stuff. Now, I don't know if you also come across it in some quarters, the argument that some even imported petroleum products sometimes come into the country cheaper than locally refined products. Well, my question really is, in this deregulated market, do you think that we are getting the best of it? Considering all of these issues with prices, marketers still wanting to import, Dangote not being able to meet demand of daily supply demand and all of that. How do we put all of this together in a deregulated market? It's supposed to be competitive.
You see, the interesting thing about the market is that certain structures within the market can prevent a market-driven price discovery. So, and one of those structures that could prevent it is a monopoly situation. Now, so if we have Dangote Refinery being the predominant provider of 70, 80, or 90% of what we consume, we cannot totally say we have a market-driven price or a market-driven price discovery, because there's a huge influence from that major producer on what the price of the item will be. So if we truly want to have a feel of a deregulated market, we must have more competition in this space. I will always talk about the fact that there is the Bua refinery, which is said to be coming up. Fantastic idea. And if we can also have the concession or the contract, to hand over the government refineries to people who can make it productive, that will also add to the pool. All these are aimed at improving competitiveness. A competitive market is one that can give us close to what I would call a proper market discovery. But as it is today, we may not have a proper market discovery. That's a price discovery, rather, by virtue of market forces. But as the competitive landscape begins to expand and improve, we expect that will eventually happen.
Interesting stuff. So moving forward, considering this same deregulated market that we see and the entire oil market, if, for example, the price of crude comes back to final pre-war levels, say 65, 67, or maybe less than $70 for a barrel, let's see, how long would we have to wait? Practically, in your own thoughts, because some will tell you when you go to the filling stations, oh, we have stock that we bought, the last stock that we bought, we need to exhaust that stock before we can start to sell at the new rates. But if you are to just looking at the plus minus, the challenges, like you said, it's no wuru and all of that, how long are we going to wait before we start to see maybe something fairer, even not exactly as it used to be before the war started?
Well, I don't think it should be a real long thing. I believe the kind of lag that we are talking about should not take more than a couple of months to even out. So even if, for example, you had made a reference to people who had inventory in their filling station, and they're saying, oh, I've gotten this inventory at an elevated price, I need to sell it out. But at the same time, if there is a cheaper fuel now coming from the depot or from the supplier, it means that you can have a mixed product one at an elevated price, one at a cheap price, and you arrive at something right in the middle. So you can begin to lower price for as long as there is lower priced fuel from the depot. And then eventually, I mean, in the real sense, how long does it take for this inventory to disappear? So which is why I'm saying in a couple of months of sustained situation like what we have, we should be able to see the impact. Don't forget that in December, when some stations were able to sell for 765 naira, it is also based on this same fact that, look, oil price has moderated. So if oil price is moderate, why can't we give fuel out at a moderate price? We have a regulator in this space, though. And one of the big role of that regulator is to ensure that the consumers are not being fleeced. Where there are indications along the line of predictions that are not coming to reality, we expect that this will be this and this will be this, but it is not happening. It is the duty of the regulator to step into that space and intervene and ensure that the consumers are not being fleeced and that we get value that we deserve for our money.
I must thank you so much, Mr. Bola Olodede, for your time on the show, Finance Expert. Thanks for your great interventions. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.